In this video, we're going to take a look at functional groups for aldehydes and ketones. Now, a functional group is just the part of the molecule that's involved in chemical reactions. And before we get too far into the functional groups, and there's 5 of them, before we get into those functional groups, we want to take a look at a basic structure that is common for all of them, and that's the carbonyl structure. Now, the carbonyl structure is a carbon atom double bonded to an oxygen atom like this. And then this carbon atom, we remember that carbon atoms like to form 4 covalent bonds. So there'd be another couple of bonds coming off like this. And they could be hydrogen atoms attached to that, could be carbon atoms. It's just the rest of the molecule. So I'm just going to go like this to show that that's the rest of the molecule, whatever that is. Now this carbonyl structure here, the oxygen atom has a couple of lone pairs on here, like this, completing the octet, and that makes the oxygen atom electronegative. So that is to say that the electrons are kind of being pulled over here towards the oxygen atom and away from the carbon atom. This makes the carbon atom electropositive. And so because we have an unequal distribution of electrons like this, this makes this structure here, this carbonyl structure, polar. So these structures, these functional groups we're going to take a look at, all of these contain the carbonyl structure, and all of them are polar, which does affect then how they react with different things. Okay, now we're going to take a look at those 5 different functional groups, and they all contain the carbonyl structure. The first one we're going to take a look at is called the aldehyde functional group. The aldehyde functional group has a carbon atom double bonded to the oxygen, that's our carbonyl, and then coming off of that is going to be a hydrogen and the rest of the molecule. So this here is our aldehyde group. Aldehyde group. The next one we're going to take a look at is ketone. Now ketone, same thing, we have the carbonyl, and instead of the hydrogen here, we're going to have another carbon atom. So I'm going to go R like this and R like this, just showing the rest of the molecule. It could be 1 carbon, it could be multiple carbons. Here it could be 1 carbon, could be multiple carbons, doesn't matter. This here is our ketone. The next one we have is our carboxylic acid. So we start out with our carbonyl. And here we're going to have the rest of the molecule, just like the rest of these here. And on this side here, what makes the carboxylic acid different is this OH. This OH here looks like the alcohol, right? Alcohol has the hydroxyl group there. But what makes this a little bit different now is because this OH, this hydroxyl group, is attached to the carbonyl, like this. So that makes it a little bit different and has different properties now than does an alcohol. Now it's called a carboxylic acid because it donates a hydrogen atom. And the hydrogen atom it donates comes from right here. And so this hydrogen atom right here can come off and form a cation, a hydrogen anion like this. And that's what makes a carboxylic acid an acid. Now, our 4th functional group here, our 4th functional group is an ester. So this is going to have our carbonyl group like this, okay, like that. We're getting really used to doing this, making these carbonyl groups here. And off of the carbonyl group, we're going to have an oxygen and the rest of the molecule like this. This is an ester. Ester. And then the last functional group is an amide functional group. And the amide functional group, what makes it unique is it has a nitrogen atom. A nitrogen atom here. And this nitrogen atom is going to have maybe a hydrogen and or maybe another hydrogen here. It could also have other carbon atoms coming off like this. All right, so these are, oh, let me write this here. This is an amide. Amide functional group. These are the 5 functional groups. The 5 functional groups we're going to be taking a look at in this module. What you should do is, I would encourage you, is to make some flashcards where you have these different structures and on one side and the names on the other. So that way you can recognize an ester from a carboxylic acid here, from an aldehyde, ketone, and amide.